How precious it is to have a physical body. Only when you have a nervous system, which is the antenna for the spirit, only then can you do certain things in the world. Without it, there are very limited things that you can. You can influence things only very, very little. So this is why it's so precious to be alive. It is our opportunity. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the channel. My name is Mars Molina, and I am a professor of yoga and spirituality, and I have dedicated my life to following these spiritual principles. And today, I spend my time sharing and teaching everything that I can that has helped me in my journey, and that can hopefully help you in yours too. And today's video, starts off a little bit cultural, but this is only to set the framework, to set the context for a deep, transformative spiritual technology that we want to discuss today. And this revelation that I want to share today discusses how when we do prayer or mantra, any type of spiritual offering, any type of something that goes beyond just ourselves and that is also dedicated to the other, it has a huge impact in the world. But I want to go beyond today. I want to go through a few layers and explain how it may actually have an even deeper impact that you may not know of. And hopefully, by understanding this principle that I want to share today, you will have a wider perspective and more space in your heart when you proceed with your offerings and with your rituals and spiritual practices. Again, prayer or even mantra. A new drive that allows you to feel more power, infusing more energy into these through this information. I felt it myself, especially last night as I was doing my usual prayers of Saturday, but I felt it very, very strongly, and it allowed me to land today's message in a more composed way. So I am eager to show you what I've discovered. And basically, it is to understand that what we have here, that you see here in my background, this is, let's say, home altar for Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, which is a very popular celebration here in Mexico. And I want to explain how practices like these are not just cultural festivity, but they are actually a spiritual technology. Let's talk about how the celebration of Dia de Muertos led me to this revelation. As you know, I am Mexican, born and raised. And as you may know, here in Mexico, all over the country, we have a celebration called Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead. A little tip there is that if you're familiar with Mexican culture, you should not say Dia de los Muertos. It sounds kind of awkward, but we Mexicans, we're a kind people, so we probably won't correct you. We'll accept that you're saying Dia de los Muertos because that's how it directly translates from English. But the appropriate way to say it is Dia de Muertos. Now, there is some misunderstanding surrounding the celebration. Some people may think that we are actually celebrating death, but that is not the case. Mexicans do not celebrate death itself. That's not what we do. What we do during the Dia de Muertos and also the days surrounding Dia de Muertos is that we are honoring our dearly departed, meaning the people who are family, friends, people who are close to us, who are no longer with us, who have departed. And you see, this season allows for that. Why? Because the sun is currently in Scorpio. This is what we may call the quote unquote Scorpio season, right? So that we can start understanding that people who are born in this period, they will have, in Western astrology, they'll be Scorpio, but in Jyotish, their sun will be in Scorpio, meaning that they will have a play in their lives surrounding the eighth house, surrounding the sign of Scorpio. What is this eighth house? What is the sign of Scorpio? It is, of course, very related to transformation. And how does transformation come if not from first something that stops and then something new that begins, right? Transformation, therefore, requires death. This eighth house, the sign of Scorpio, is also very related to mystery. And mystery of life and death, but also the mystery of how we go deeper into this transformation. So during this season, you will see that there are so many themes about spiritual entities, mystery, things of the dark coming to the light. Actually, across the globe, you will see that there are many, many cultures that celebrate one way or another, ancient or modern, some way of entities coming to the earth, entities from a paranormal state coming into our normal lives. Of course, we are talking about the modern Halloween, but also the ancient Halloween if you look back at its origins. You also see themes of dark and light leading to transformation in celebrations that also happen around this season in India, for example, with Diwali. So there is something afoot during the season in which things can come into our normal world, paranormal things. So during this time, the boundaries between the physical world that you and I live in and the spiritual world, they become thinner to allow for the communion of certain spiritual entities. And of course, it is a time where the unknown deep mysteries of life and death, they rise to the surface to be reviewed. It is a time of spirits. It is a time of entities, as I mentioned. That's also what modern Halloween is. You see all these people wearing these costumes, and they may even act a little bit differently. It's not as simple as putting on a costume. They are actually entities who are taking possession of people to some degree, and then they come out to play. And the results of that are, of course, seeing in whatever unfolds after. Uh, Halloween is even modern Halloween, even the costumes or the costumes that are only like sexualized, it has a deeper a spiritual implication that perhaps we can discuss sometime. But today I want to focus on Dia de Muertos. So in Mexico, we take this season to celebrate our dearly departed. What does that mean? We celebrate by remembering them, by honoring them, and very, very famously, as you may have seen in movies or in social media to some degree, or if you spend time with Mexicans, lucky you, we celebrate them very commonly by setting up an altar all over the country in Mexico. If you're visiting Mexico during the season, you will see altars all over the place, even sometimes in hospitals, in businesses, in public spaces, and of course at home, right? So this is the altar that we have here at home. And it is very common for Mexican families to put an altar. And what do you put there to honor the people? What do you put there to celebrate them? Well, you can put something that reminds you of them, something that is deeply linked with them. You can put offerings such as food, fruit, snacks. You put their pictures as well. And you would add things that are related to them. You can, of course, place as well their favorite food, their favorite snacks. So for each and every single one of you, you can even take a moment to reflect if someone was putting up an altar, what would they put that represents you? For me, it's very simple. You would put some coffee, some coffee beans, some almonds, a Dr. Pepper, and that's how you would put things in my altar. And it is not just about us remembering them. Let's go deeper and see what happens when we place these things at the altar. You see, during this season, especially here in Oaxaca, you'll go through a town and you see that it's just spectacular. Everything is very colorful. Everything is very, very celebratory. Everything is very vibrant, full of life, full of color. But there's a reason for this. Even the colors that are used. Because what's happening is that we are putting signs. We're even decorating with this type of flower, which is called cempasúchil. I'll borrow this from the altar just to show. This is a cempasúchil. So why? Why do we do all these things? Well, this flower blooms during the season, and these colors also have a particular wavelength. These are signs so that our dearly departed will resonate with them. They will feel it. They will find that connection, and they can come to visit us. Okay? So by putting these things in my home, and on the way towards my home, maybe in the outside by my window as well, I am telling my ancestors, I am telling my family, hey, I remember you, just so you know where I live, because I recently moved. This is where I lived. Please come visit. because I have an altar for you, because I remember you, because I love you, because I honor you, and because I brought some of our favorite things or some of the things that I know that will help you, some of the things that I know that are for you in this season that you're kindly coming to visit me. So it's not just about us dressing up, it's about us telling them, hey, we are here and we love you and we remember you, please come visit. You see, it's not just spiritual tourism. It's not just come visit. There are more layers. Once again, the flower that we use to celebrate them, that is called cempasúchil. In English, they call it marigold, but that is nowhere near as cool as saying cempasúchil, in my opinion. This is a flower that blooms during the season. So that flower too has a particular spirit, a particular energy. Even the color orange, right? The color orange of the uh, pumpkin of this season as well. It has a particular quality. The harvest that takes place during the season. There is something that relates so much to what happens during this time of the year that allows for things to come forth, that allows for things to be transformed, and once again, that allows for our dearly departed to visit us. But again, let's go a little bit deeper. One thing I forgot to mention is, of course, I'll try to show them in the video, but we also have traditional pastries, baked goods that we have all over Mexico. Different regions of Mexico have them a little bit different. And of course, Dia de Muertos is also a little bit different in different regions of Mexico. But we also bake special things that we'll put in the altar for our spiritual guests. So in the days surrounding Dia de Muertos, late October to early November, during the right day, our dearly departed will come. They will visit us. They will spend some time with us. We feel connection with them. We feel their presence. When you talk to your relatives, you may hear that your relatives are saying, hey, yes, I remember, feeling that like as if my grandfather was here, or I remember smelling the perfume of my grandmother, or I heard somebody's laughter. Like you may feel that something quite uh, ghost-like is taking place. And of course, when you leave these offerings for them, they will come and consume them spiritually. So this is why the things that we put in the altar, we don't eat them later because they have already been consumed and they are for them. This is also why if you eat them, you will see they have no real nutritional value. They will not nourish you. They have already been consumed. And so what do I mean by right day? You see, in the day surrounding Day of the Dead, something very interesting takes place. Surrounding Dia de Muertos, each specific day is honoring a person who has departed in a particular type of circumstance. For example, I'll put this list also, by the way, in my Instagram and in the video somewhere, but there is a day that is dedicated for pets. Who hasn't lost a pet? I remember very clearly in my family when I was a child, we had a dog that came to our lives when I was a baby. So I grew up with him. And by the time, 16 years later, this dog's entity time with us came to expire. It was heartbreaking. I remember even the veterinarian, he cried so much as well. And so we honor them. We honor these creatures who have spent 10, 15 years with us, maybe less, maybe more, and we honor them in the altar as well. We also have a day that is dedicated to people who, by the time of their passing, they were alone. And there was no one there to guide them from that state of almost losing your life to losing your life. Uh, as you know, when you pass away, there are so many rituals and practices that take place, no matter what culture you are. There are certain things that are done that will help your soul be carried into the next stage. So, if you are a person who's forgotten, if you're a person who was lost, there is a day for that too. There is also a day that is dedicated for people who die in very tragic, sudden events, such as accidents, of course, because that also carries a particular energy. Um, I wasn't planning on talking about this next part, it just came to my mind, but it is known that depending on the type of the condition of your death, it will have an influence in the condition of your next birth. But that's a conversation for another time. Uh, there's also a specific day, and I found this to be quite interesting. for people who pass away in water related incidents or by drowning, which is interesting because those are the type of deaths that are corresponding to the eighth house, to the sign of Scorpio, because the sign of Scorpio represents the depth of the ocean and the let's say difficulties that may arise there. So that's why in some readings during certain seasons or to certain people, I look at their charts and I say, hey, don't go scuba diving in so and so season, right? Don't go scuba diving when this happens. Don't go scuba diving next year because something may happen, right? So I found it very interesting that there's a specific day during the Scorpio season that celebrates and wants to honor people who die a Scorpio death. Isn't that interesting? So you see, we celebrate these souls in many different ways. And when you partake in this celebration, you do something very, very special with them. And when I reflected on this and decided to look at it from a spiritual perspective, that is when the real message came about what is happening as a spiritual technology when we honor the dead. And before I forget, I also should mention that there is a day exclusively for children, and there is a day also exclusively for adults as well. So perhaps now you have an ability to understand this very famous Mexican celebration in a new light. But let's take it to a new level. You see, if you ask around your family, and this is unnecessary if you're Mexican because we already do this, but if you're not Mexican or if you're not familiar with the celebration and you ask around your family, especially when you're a little bit older, you'll find that someone has departed in a way that matches some of the days that I've described so far. Someone has been lost and never found. Someone left and there was no chance to give them the sacred rituals of passing. Someone died in a war, I'm sure. Someone died at birth or during childhood. Someone maybe have a complete life and they lived until they were 95 years old, 100 years old, and they lived a whole life. And I'm sure many of you have lost pets. So you see, we all have someone in our spheres that matches one of these days. So that is why these celebrations are so important, because you are honoring that person, you're remembering that person, and you're helping that person too. But I'll talk more about that in a second. Because why is this so important? Depending on how you've lived your life, you have accumulated karma. And the gods responsible for measuring the likeness of our hearts, as the Egyptians would put it, they would measure, they would put on a scale the karma. And sometimes the only way to pay some of the karma is in that transient state between one birth and the other. Once we finish and we close the shop in one birth and before the next. So during this time, we may be forced to be held into a transient state until we pay for what we have done, crimes and sins. Really, it's just ignorant action, which is what leads to the creation of karma. So this is why, and you see it in storytelling and cinema and all these things, right? People can go into this astral state, this altered state, this middle state, and they get to see their lives past and future in a new perspective, from a third person perspective. They get to make amends, right? Very commonly, have we seen the trope of someone coming to the people who are alive and saying like, hey, let me enter your body and let me do some things because I have some things to pay. And only by having a physical body can I pay them. You see how precious it is to have a physical body. Only when you have a nervous system, which is the antenna for the spirit, only then can you do certain things in the world. Without it, there are very limited things that you can. You can influence things only very, very little. So this is why it's so precious to be alive. It is our opportunity. So when you're doing these offerings, when you're doing celebration of Día de Muertos, you're helping the spirit that is held in a transient state. They get to take a break from the slavery that they found themselves in, from the punishment, from the prison time that they are in, and they get to come home with you. They get to spend some time with you. And what do you have for them? Hey, have this bread. It's, by the way, it's my favorite bread. Enjoy it. Enjoy this food. Enjoy the things that you enjoyed in life. Here, feel this connection. Imagine if you yourself were in that state. Wouldn't you like, for at least maybe 2 or 3 days per year, be able to visit, come home for the holidays, and be nourished, be remembered, be celebrated? And then you have 360 more days to go for the rest of the year to pay, to work hard, to be in the depths of Scorpio world, mining, digging, drilling, basically being a slave of karma. That sounds tough. So it's best that we celebrate them. It's best that we bake this bread with the image of Christ in it and say, hey, remember Christ. Hey, remember I love you. You are not alone. And this is only the beginning. It goes even deeper than that. During this transient state, souls are also in a bit of an amnesiac state. Think about ghosts. Any ghost story, I would say most of the ghost stories, 99% of them, the ghost has amnesia of some sort. They don't remember who they were, or they don't know themselves that they are the ghost. There is some forgetfulness. That is very painful. But you're not better. Even in your current physical ego state, you don't forget that you're a self, that you're an entity also, that you go beyond this physical identity, this ego identity. You're not that much better off, but they are, in fact, in a difficult condition. So when this season comes, we also have a lot of celebration, a lot of happiness, a lot of party, a lot of processions here in the city. There are parades, which we call calendas. There are probably 100 of them per day on a good day. I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but I would say yes. In the region of the entire state of Oaxaca, I would not be surprised if there's 100 calendas per day in a busy day. And a not busy day, maybe 20. 20 parades. So many of them. There's constant celebration because it is a reminder. And I don't know to what level the people who organize them know this, but life is a procession of karma. So when we do these processions, these parades, we are reminding the soul, hey, there is a procession going on. When you are living, you are in a procession of karma. So what these souls are experiencing in this transient state is amnesia and lack of connection. So they come home and you remind them, hey, remember who you are. You are my grandfather. You are my grandmother. I love you. Have this for the road. May you continue. May you be okay. May you be free from the bondage so that you can quick come to the next stage. For many, 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 many of them, it means being born again. And again, once you are born again and you have a physical body, that is your chance to do certain karmas for good or ill. So here's where it's going to get deeper and more interesting. Crash course on Dia de Muertos, right? But when you do these offerings for them, when you remember them, and this is, think about it, it's very important that we even have a day for the people who are not remembered. So we purposefully do like this spiritual mental technology gymnastics of saying, let me not forget those who are forgotten. It's like when you're playing hide and seek when you're a kid and you say, hey, I go to the, I don't know how they play hide and seek in English actually, but in Spanish, you go to the original place where the person who's seeking you started, and you have a chance to say, it's for me and everyone else, for me and all my friends. So because I said that, everyone else also win. And if I don't say it, only I win. But when you do these things, when you remember these people, the gods and the entities who hold us in this karma, they are graceful, they are forgiving. They are not evil, they are graceful. They are gods, they are deities. So every time you pray for them, especially when that prayer is amplified during the season, you are lowering their sentence, their prison sentence. of this transient state. So think about it. If you know that one of the people in your family, imagine anyone that matches any of the days that I've described, whether they're a child, a pet, or an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent. Imagine if they had to pay 2 more weeks of punishment, but you get to release that sentence from them just by this season doing offerings to them and speaking to God and saying, "Hey, can you let them go now?" Because now, but why? Why would God do that? Just because you ask? No, because you have awareness. You have a new awareness. That is why this is a spiritual technology. And by God realizing, oh, thank you, you, the grandson, you, the granddaughter that remembers them, has expanded their mind and their awareness. And that's what God wants. That is the currency of the divine: awareness, presence. So when God receives that, God will measure that and say, because you have this new love, this newfound awareness, I will let them go. They can go now. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that powerful? Isn't that a reason why we should pray? Why we should go to the masters, to the temples, to the churches, to the priests, to the sacred people, and be in communion with them? Because that helps our ancestors. And of course, like I mentioned, it's amplified in the season, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it in other seasons too. And especially if you have someone in your lineage, in your family, that you know for a fact, because you don't know their other lifetimes, right? But if you know in this lifetime, they did some reprimandable things, some sins, some crimes, wouldn't you want them not to be punished anymore? Wouldn't you want them to be forgiven? Now do you see this deeper value of these offerings? I'm not even done yet. There's more depth to go. Actually, I see this video is quite long already. So I think I'll do part 2 of the spiritual principle of this spiritual technology during the week, or maybe next week, because this is already about 30 minutes-ish long, depending on the edit. But for now, I think I've given you a lot of context on Day of the Dead and the culture and festivities. But like I mentioned, also how you can start understanding prayers, offerings, rituals, whatever you want to call them, that go beyond you at a deeper level. And there's more to say, but I don't want to make the video too long. And I know it came because it's that season of depth and mystery and revelation, and it truly, truly is so. But for now, my invitation to each and every single one of you is that you remember that there are times when you are in your yoga class or at the temple or in any spiritual cultural practices that you do, there is in all cultures a moment in which you open up to the other. Understand that this goes beyond the apparent, beyond the physical. Understand that when you pray for those who have sinned, when you pray for God, hey, give me something so I can forgive because I have a hard time forgiving. Understand that you're also extending that to your own lineage, to your own family members. There is so much power there. Understand that your prayer goes beyond just what is happening right now. And if you don't pray for others, if you don't do offerings for others, if you don't do rituals or practices for others, why not? Doesn't matter what your culture is. I am pretty confident, and you can reach out if I'm wrong, that any culture has some type of offering for the deceased or some type of offering for the other. I don't think there's any culture that doesn't have that. There's a reason for that. Think about it. So I look forward to talking more to you about the real deep aspect of this spiritual technology that came to me during this revelation. But for now, I bid you adieu. If you're interested in learning more about this, I recommend getting in touch with me so we can discuss more via readings and any other activities that I have. Of course, in this channel, you can find a lot of videos, a lot of content about it. If you're interested in going deeper, you can contact my assistant, and she's able to book a reading for you. And every once in a while, depending on how busy I am, I may do a class, a workshop, or even a course. Uh, I know there's quite a few of you that want to do some one-on-one coaching, and one-on-one, let's say, coaching is not really the word that I use, but just so that we understand one another, one-on-one sessions with me. But my schedule is so packed that it's so difficult. I am, however, considering doing group uh, things. So if you're interested in learning more about how to live a life of truth, live a life of spiritual alignment, live a life of awareness, and how that results in a life that is greater than what it currently is, please get in touch with me and I'll be happy to let you know about next steps. But for now, that is all. I hope you take good care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you next time. So have a great week ahead, and thank you.